All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Anime Junction Cast, or anime, because I know Brandon got on me about saying the, but it's very natural, kind of like you're saying a sentence. But welcome to episode 2 of this fairly new podcast here on the, I believe it's the Junction Network YouTube channel, if I didn't mess that up too badly.
Yep, got it.
But you got me and Brandon, obviously. All over the place. I'm pointing in the wrong direction.
I thought my name was Brian. What the heck?
Is it not Steve? I thought you were going
This
Steve.
This is Brian. This is Chris. That's Steve. This is Max.
And then this is everything else in between. Who knows? I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But
representing everybody.
But I appreciate y'all coming back or supporting us for a second episode of who knows how many this is going to actually be. 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000,000. Probably not going to be alive that long at this rate, but
quadrillion.
Appreciate everybody watching and supporting. Just want to give a quick shout out before we get into this about, everybody that supports us. We channel membership, whether it's here on the Junction Network or the Game Junction here on YouTube, whether it's on the Patreon or any of the other socials such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, all the other socials. They're going to be down in the links below. Definitely appreciate everyone that supports us across whatever platform. I know I want to get into it. Is that a Ghostbusters shirt you got on?
It's actually the video game. Ghostbusters, the video game from like 2008. This is an old shirt.
Yeah, getting retro in there. It's really good. I know it's perfect for anime.
I gotta show more of it. Gotta put it down a little bit so everybody can see it the whole time.
Oh yeah. I guess it's a little backwards. I gotta fix some stuff on my camera, but good old Godzilla shirt, which is pretty dope considering I got this at GameStop. So
it's crazy is the last episode that we did the Game Junction podcast. When we did it, we didn't talk about Godzilla that time.
We didn't talk about it. That's crazy. I feel like we have a week or two, and then bam, 8 weeks straight Godzilla.
We literally had a subscriber subscribe because we were talking about Godzilla. He wants to start a Godzilla podcast because we talked about it so much.
I'm not knowledgeable enough. There's a lot of Godzilla I still need to watch, but it's a good little hobby. And it's been
I love it.
It's been a good last 9 months with 2 Godzilla movies, and more coming.
Incredible. Yeah, I saw a massive. It was $400. This massive. Well, I guess it wasn't even that big. The box was maybe like yay big, like the size of. I don't know, like this. I got a 32-inch monitor, almost as big as that, but it was a Godzilla. I think a model kit, but it was from Godzilla, the new Godzilla Kong. However, the Godzilla was already put together, so I don't know why it would be a model kit, but it must have been like one of those premium edition, like figure sets because it came with buildings, but it's $300.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. It looked really cool though. Looked really cool.
No, that's definitely.
I think I'd rather spend $300 on a different designed Godzilla though.
No, fair enough.
To be honest.
Yeah. But obviously for this episode, we're gonna start by talking a little bit about some Dragon Ball GT. Obviously Super is airing, but GT's that whole what if scenario. Got some unfortunate news that we want to talk about Rachael Lillis, her passing away. If you have watched the Game Junction podcast, we talked about it there, but obviously it's relevant to the anime, so we're going to talk about it again. It's only relevant if you happen to watch both podcasts, but I just wanted to give a little disclaimer. I can't speak sometimes. We're going to talk a little bit about Isekai, the genre as a whole, and then obviously there's some, I wouldn't say new news, but there's been some ongoing stuff about AI and the translation stuff. Wanted to talk, give our 2 cents about that. As well as some of the upcoming stuff that we did want to talk about that we know is going to be coming over the next few weeks is we want to get, start watching some of the current anime. So we're in the process, and I don't know exactly how it's going to pay out for the next 2 weeks, or maybe we'll put them both on the next episode. Have to wait and see. But it's what's the My Dear Shokuno, or My Dear Friend Shokuno. In the process of watching that, getting new thoughts. It's a weird slice of life. Dear anime, so we're watching that because it's definitely airing. And then I believe it was the not the movies.
Kenshin?
Yes, I guess the live action ones were the ones you were saying.
The live action movies they're all on Netflix. So why not? They're available there.
So those were 2 of the ones. As far as stuff we want to talk about coming up, just kind of giving you all like a heads up of some of the upcoming stuff. And obviously a lot of good stuff that we want to do here, and we kind of spoke about in the first episode. But about an hour is our goal for this podcast, and eventually I'll stop saying that. But for people that are new, and this is still a new project, so that's kind of like the time frame we want to do. Just sit down, talk about a little bit about what's going on and some random stuff. But enough about this introduction. I guess we get right into it. I know you talked about it, and it's been quite a while since I guess technically Dragon Ball GT did air, and obviously it aired differently in Japan than what we actually got here in the West. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's going back because I know I haven't watched it in a hot second. Or obviously it's easier to go on like YouTube and watch some clips. Uh, I didn't completely hate GT when it first came out, but it was very obviously different. And I myself, and maybe some people did or didn't, I can't remember what your thoughts are. You're about to tell me your thoughts on it, obviously, but I didn't like the Super Saiyan 4 monkey-ish transformation that they had. I didn't care for it. I don't know if you had any specific thoughts on that.
Well, okay, so the first time I watched this was actually on a Japanese station that we would get
Yeah.
here back in the day, and it would show at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So I probably watched at least 10 episodes with no subtitles and nothing, no idea what was going on. I was watching just for, basically just for loving Dragon Ball and watching the fighting scenes and stuff that's going on. But you mentioned Super Saiyan 4. Super Saiyan 4 is my favorite Super Saiyan. I love the red outfit with the pants. I think it looks really cool, and I think it's the most separated from all the Super Saiyan forms.
Oh yeah, it is.
Because I mean, you get longer hair, you get more yellow hair, you get, eventually like blue hair and different colored hair. But this one, like all around, he had standard black hair, so no yellow hair, which I thought was cool because it's like they're Super Saiyan with no yellow hair and like super, super long. Um, I just thought that he looked different and really stood out the most at that point in time. And now it's my favorite. But GT as a whole, I'm not, I'm like, I don't hate it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
I'm like very mid with it. I think it's like a 5 out of 10, right? Like I don't, maybe a 6 out of 10. I still enjoy it for what it is, but it doesn't feel like Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z to me.
Yeah.
And I also didn't like the Goku turn into a kid again.
Yeah, with that, it kind of felt like they were trying to merge what Dragon Ball was and Dragon Ball Z were, because they are, while it's technically the same universe, they're very different as far as the tone goes. Then the fact how he becomes a kid. 'Cause, I mean, I like the concept of bringing back Emperor Pilaf, who definitely dropped off uh, after Dragon
Yeah.
Ball and it's essentially non-existent. And I guess technically he's back in Super, but it's from what I've seen, I've definitely not kept up with Super, just because my interest in Dragon Ball has definitely dropped off over the years. Uh, they brought back old characters, but there's stuff I liked. And I didn't completely hate the Goku as a kid part, just because it felt like it was trying to do something back to maybe a little bit smaller scale with the whole. Well, I guess power creep is technically still there, but
Yeah.
as a whole, it just felt like it didn't go anywhere. The only thing I really liked about it was Pan as a character.
I think yeah.
She
Yeah.
was the best part of it.
I love Pan. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it was just I thought it was okay. I obviously watched this as a kid, so my standards were far lower than what they'd be now.
Yeah.
I'd probably be far
Yeah.
more critical about it, but uh, I mean, it's just par for the course of. I mean, I watched Dragon Ball out of order, anyways, because what was it on Toonami was, at least from what I remember, they might be wrong. I remember watching Z, then Dragon Ball, then GT. I don't remember that's how they actually aired it, but that's how I remember watching it.
I watched Dragon Ball first, but I think what it was is that I watched one of the VHS tapes first of that.
Yeah.
And then watched Z after, but Z I think aired before Dragon Ball. I'm like 90% sure.
Yeah, which is
Like
technically confusing because that means the introduction. I guess it's fine, but it kind of doesn't make sense because it's assuming you've watched Dragon Ball beforehand.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty open about this. That I like Dragon Ball better than any of them. I like Dragon Ball better because it's more of an adventure show versus a fighting, typical shonen show.
Yeah, kind of what Z became.
Yeah, because Z became that super shonen where, there would be episodes where they're charging up the fight for 4 episodes in a row, filler too, but I like the adventure aspect of Dragon Ball. I like all the characters during that time. Seeing Bulma during that time was entirely different than seeing Bulma and Z. She played a way bigger role. Um, Tracking down the Dragon Balls was just really cool. I love the Skull Pirates. I love the enemy designs in Dragon Ball just a little bit more than I did
Yeah,
in Z. I just like adventure stuff, adventure anime and manga a little bit better than I do like your standard fighting shonen,
yeah.
personally.
And
But
I believe you've seen Dragon Ball Z abridged, right?
yes, of
Yeah,
course.
I did want to super assume it on you, but I did like what they did in the abridged was how they kind of poke fun of like, hey, you remember how like at one point I can't remember if it was during the Cells. I thought it was during the Cell Saga. I might be wrong, but they're sitting around a table like, oh, remember how we used to do stuff? Like, oh yeah, remember Emperor Pilaf and stuff like that, and the Red Ribbon Army. Because there's like a bunch of characters that were super relevant. What's it?
Yeah.
Bulma, Roshi, uh,
Yep.
Tien technically to some degree, and then
Yep.
Yamcha, who once you got into
Yep.
Z,
They were like all the mainstays were kind of there, except
yeah,
like Vegeta and stuff like that. But
but their relevance just dropped off because of like, oh, there's
yeah,
a hard cap. Like, I guess technically you got Emperor Piccolo, but the Piccolo that we knew in Z was technically different. But outside of Piccolo, it was Goku and Vegeta, and I guess technically you had have Gohan, who peaked during the Cell Saga, and then he did his weird thing later on at the back half during the Boo
yeah, where
Saga
he
and stuff
turned
like that. But like everybody
Super
else, just
Saiyan Man.
yeah, they're like, oh, you're technically human, so you drop off, and the whole issue
Yeah.
with power creep, and the villains just keep getting stronger and stronger, which I feel like Super continues to have the same problem where power creep just
Yeah, it's like
spiked
how
even
far can
harder.
you go? How far can you go? Like it seemed like after Lord Beerus, like you couldn't get any higher than that.
But
Like
they,
it seemed like that was the ceiling, but of course it's not. Like we learned it's not. But like they made it out to like he is the ceiling, he is the strongest being, period. He is God to the series. Like that's how they made it
yeah,
out to be. Um so I don't know. Super's really interesting in that aspect. It's like how powerful can you get, and what do you do besides change the hair color at that point? Like I feel like we need new outfits. Like Super Saiyan 4, it looked different at least. He had a whole different outfit. It wasn't just longer yellow hair. There was no yellow hair at all. That's why I like the design.
yeah.
I think the black hair fits well. The two different color, the red and the like gold, I thought looked cool. um but yeah, I mean, it's like Dragon Ball GT isn't great by any means, and obviously like it's the weird thing where the anime came out before the manga, so like then you see what the designs are in the manga.
Yeah, but I
The
thought,
manga's
from what I understood, Akira Toriyama wasn't even involved at
he
all in
wasn't at
GT.
all.
Whether
He
eventually
wasn't.
they made a manga, but they do a lot of shows where they
It's
make the
their
manga
own
afterwards.
manga, yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense why it's weird. And technically now it doesn't even exist. It's like a alternate timeline with Super, which takes place right after Z, or whatever time gap there technically is.
But
But
I will say Super Saiyan 4 always shows up in Dragon Ball fighting games. Like even if it's like a specific to Z,
yeah,
like Super Saiyan 4 always seems to show up because Super Saiyan 4 does have a fan following for it. I'm not the only one to think that. Like I think it's a cool design. Is he the strongest? By no means, no, but I think the design's cool.
oh yeah, completely. Uh, so I mean, I in a lot of ways I think it gets the hate it deserves, but I think there are a
Yeah.
handful of redeeming qualities where we stand in them obviously differ a little bit because I didn't care for the evolution stuff, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's more Dragon Ball, it's more Shonen, so
Yeah.
you get what you get.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we can move on to the next
Oh,
topic.
let me ask you
Or sorry,
one question before we move on.
yeah.
I'm just curious. Did you see that there is a potential for the studio doing uh what's the shonen called? Jujutsu Kaisen? Maybe continuing Dragon Ball? Did you see that news?
I may have missed it, but it's
Because apparently they like made a like straight up reference in Jujutsu Kaisen of Dragon Ball and like took the design, but it was like Jujutsu Kaisen design, but it looked very similar, if that makes sense. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. Now,
Because
I'd never seen that show, but
yeah, because Toei Animation owns Dragon Ball, and I believe it does works on Dragon Ball Super.
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where I read Jujutsu Kaisen announces special Dragon Ball collab. This is what I
yeah, it
saw.
may have been a collab, but I sit here like I couldn't
I
see
mean,
Toei Animation giving it up or having them do it else unless they licensed it out. But it's been Toei Animation this whole time. I find it hard to believe as far as like them fully giving it up or giving it to a different studio.
and it's got to continue, right? It's such a massive series that there's no way they're going to let the series die now.
I mean,
Like, I
it
feel
ended a
like there's
while
got to
ago.
be. But did it?
Yeah, after GT, it was like it was just over. Or
But
technically, for
Super.
I could see Super ending and there just being nothing after it. I mean, Akira Toriyama, uh, unfortunately, isn't with us anymore, so I
That's
assume the
what I'm
story's gonna
saying.
have to
Like,
come to an end.
do you think it comes to an end, or do you, well, I mean, it's not because we're getting Daima. We know that,
But
and he was directly involved with
yeah, but he
that.
worked on that. But I mean, I don't know. There's always a possibility, but it at a point it's just gonna be not uh Toriyama's work anymore, and are people gonna receptive to that? Because I mean, it's been like
That's
20
the thing.
years, but GT was a failure at every level.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's kind of what I was asking. Will it continue without him? Do you think?
I guess
Because it's such a massive IP, I cannot imagine they just drop it.
I mean, it's 50-50, but I mean, I guess it ultimately, I mean, maybe this is coming from a US perspective. I don't know if the Japanese view it differently. I mean, if it stays financially viable, there's a strong chance they'll continue on with it. But
It will.
yeah,
It's got
ultimately,
to.
it's at least a 50-50 kind of toss up because I'm not in the room making these decisions. Um, but I mean,
Yeah.
eventually it will come to an end. Eventually, I just don't know how long it's gonna continue to run. Maybe another 2 years, another 20 years. Who knows?
And who knows how long Daima's going to be? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like whether it's going to be a long running, like another, like a Baruto to, you know what I mean? Where it's
yeah.
another long running series, or like a Shippuden. Um, is this going to be like the size of like Dragon Ball Z or the original Dragon Ball, or is this going to be like a one-off season? Because it looks like they're planning for this to be like the next Dragon Ball iteration, is
Yeah.
what it seems. But and I'm excited for it. I think it looks great. I think we talked about it literally the day before or the day after they announced it. Like I brought it up because we weren't really talking about anime that much then, but I was like, this is too big to not talk about because it
Yeah.
looks really good. And of course, Akira was still with us at that time, but yeah, I'm interested to see if it continues. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess only time will tell, but I don't know how far they originally planned for it. It's all like stuff that's behind the scenes, but yeah, I mean, ultimately time's gonna tell. So,
yeah,
uh, but yeah, obviously you mentioned one depressing thing, and go on to another one. That back on, I believe it was on the 10th of August, if I'm getting my dates correctly. Rachael Lillis had passed away. Obviously, I feel like everybody is probably already you know, has heard the news by now. But if you haven't, it's unfortunate she passed away. Yes, it was August 10th in LA at the age of 55. And obviously, what most people remember her for is both Misty and Jessie from the original Pokemon series and all the movies that they
yeah,
did. And then she obviously did a lot of extra roles. She's done stuff such as Vulpix, Venomat, Goldeen. I think Jigglypuff is one of the bigger ones. Uh, and just a lot of other like side Pokemon, depending on the movie or the series that they've worked on. But obviously, Misty and Jessie were like the two big mainstay roles that she worked on. Um,
yeah. I always loved her as Jigglypuff. I thought it
oh
was
yeah,
funny with the singing, when they'd fall asleep and then writing on their faces, and they'd wake up and they were like that. The especially the original Pokemon anime holds a very, very, very special place in my heart. I watched the very first episode when it premiered in the US. It was like a countdown for me. Like We were getting ready. My dad like knew for weeks I was ready to watch this anime. Like it was an event. Like he watched it with me at that time.
Yeah.
It was like a big event, like something I can never forget. And that anime, especially up to like I like a lot of it. I watched Gold and Silver and stuff, and I still have a few of the VHS tapes. But up to like the Orange Islands, like I absolutely loved it. Um, I like the Gold and Silver anime too. I like anime way past that because there was like Pokemon Legends that were like different, or Pokemon Chronicles, which is like the new one that's on Netflix. That's actually very, very, very good for Pokemon. It's surprisingly wonderful. Um, I think Pokemon Chronicle, The Legend of Arceus or something is called, where it was like it was themed around the Arceus game. Like, so I like stuff that is new, but I love that original stuff. I'm very attached to it. I would rewatch those VHS tapes over and over and over again, and I memorized all the Poke Raps and the who oh, hold on. What kind of Pokemon are you? How do you do the things you do? Do you remember the one where they count through all 150?
Like the Pokemon rap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I couldn't remember
Yeah.
all the parts of it. I definitely remember the actual rap itself. It's very very iconic.
All it is saying all the Pokemon names pretty much. Yeah, there was all those different like Pokemon songs they'd have at like the end or whatever. It was super funny. I loved it. I have great memories of her voicing Misty, and of course Veronica Taylor voiced Ash, who no longer voices Ash anymore as of I think earlier this year, late last year. Um, so it's kind of a bummer. It just means we're getting older.
Yeah,
People passing, people moving along,
it's
new things
unfortunate.
happening. Um, but yeah. I mean, I all my thoughts go out to the family and friends, and it is definitely very sad.
Yeah, and obviously that's what she's most well known for. And obviously one of the other big shows that she worked on that I watched her in was The Irresponsible Captain Tyler is Yuriko Star, one of Tyler's main big officers who tries to kind of keep him in check. It's a really good series, kind of funny if you've ever watched it before, and I think she does really good work. She definitely sounds extremely. She's a good voice actress. It's a very different take. I kind of would see Pokemon as kind of cartoony or cartoonish in how you kind of voice act, because it's very obviously geared towards a very young audience. Where when she voice acts, at least in this work that I remember her from, it's much more mature, much more adult, because obviously the role's different. I didn't even realize it until recently that it was the same voice actor that did the both roles. Um, but maybe it's just
Yeah,
me not paying attention. But obviously she's done a lot of work. She's worked on the Slayers. She's worked on Revolutionary Girl
I
Utina.
love the Slayers.
Yeah, she's obviously Slayer's next as well. So she's worked on a lot of stuff. She's had some minor roles in, I believe it was the 2002 Berserk, and just a whole litany of other stuff that she's worked on throughout the years. Obviously, she's done a lot of work on the Super Smash Bros. Games, voicing Jigglypuff and Goldeen in those games. Though I think she was in some of the games, she's also gone by Rachel McCabre or something like that. That's how you probably say it. uh,
McCabe.
McCabe or something like that. Yeah, uh, just a different name that she went by in some of the
And
credit
it
stuff.
looks like she even did she voiced Coco in Hunter x Hunter The Last Mission as well, the movie.
Yes.
But it looks like she voiced in a lot of the Pokemon movies. Like I'm
Oh
looking
yeah.
through here, even Detective Pikachu. She voiced Jigglypuff in that too.
Yeah. Now they did note on that one. It was they said it was archival recording, so it's not like they brought her back
Oh,
in.
okay.
But I mean, they used her work in that, and pretty much anything that Misty or Jesse was in, they obviously she was in there. And I can't go through everything. I haven't seen a lot of stuff, but she's obviously done a lot of stuff. Some of the most
A
recent
lot,
stuff that I
yeah.
think she worked on, because it looked like she'd kind of stepped away about 2019, but she worked on the between 2016 and 2019 Hunter x Hunter as Mito Frix, and then Coco, as well as
Reese's.
yeah, Freesis, yeah, and then Your Line April, and she's done a little bit of work, in the Fate Stay Night, and then Gundam Unicorn and stuff like that. That's just some of the, at least to me, some of the bigger stuff that she's worked on. Though I believe in a lot of these, um, mostly were some minor roles for the most part. But it's for a lot of people, it's a lot of people's childhood, especially the big Pokemon. So while it's really unfortunate and really sad for her passing, uh, at the very least, can kind of celebrate, and we have a lot of works that she's done on that we can
Yeah.
remember and continue to, her memory can and voice can live on through the works that she's actually done that we can continue to enjoy. So, uh, at least in me, and I think you would agree a little bit, you want to try to find the positive and a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
You don't want everything to be negative all the
Absolutely.
time. It's super depressing. So I want to kind of, uh, I know some people do and don't agree with the whole celebration of life stuff. Is a good mentality to have at the very least on someone's passing. Who wants to just be sad all the time? Gotta find the
Yeah.
good and the positive in life.
Yeah. I didn't know that was really a thing where people didn't like it, but I think it makes sense to celebrate the good things,
Yeah,
what they did and are leaving behind. To me, that's what I look at. And she also did a bunch of video games too, which is really cool, like Smash Brothers and Pokemon Puzzle League, Valkyrie Profile, which is a must play strategy RPG, JRPG slash um, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, Ape Escape 2, Lego Jurassic World. So she's done a lot. She's done a lot for sure. So
oh
she's definitely leaving behind a real legacy of work.
no, yeah, definitely. And I guess I don't know how relevant this actually is. Or anybody that would actually remember this. You remember Winx Club way back
Yep,
when?
I was gonna mention
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
she was apparently
and
part of the.
chaotic.
Yeah, she was apparently the one of the headmistress. I don't remember anything from that show, to be honest. Uh,
I do. I remember some.
but apparently I guess she did headmistress. Don't know how relevant that was, and other various roles on
Yeah.
that show as well. I just remember that way back
Cubics
when.
though. Cubics though is a really cool one because I loved Cubics back in the day.
I don't even
I
remember
loved
that
that card.
show, to be fair.
I got the Game Boy Color racing game for Cubics. It's called Cubics. I think just Racing Robots is what it's called. But yeah, definitely a lot of stuff there. She even did audiobooks. She's got production credits. She did obviously those cartoons. She was Tomo in the TMNT 2003 show, and she did a lot of stuff. So she's got a long legacy of things that she's done, and
Yeah,
that's cool to see all the films and everything. So
yeah. But before we move on, just want to say one last thing. Electro, Diglett, Nidoran, Mankey, Venusaur, Rattata, Pharaoh. But sorry, I obviously don't remember them bringing that off the screen, but
why did you start at that Pokemon?
because that's what it
Why'd
starts
you?
with. It starts with the "I wanna be the best there ever was," and it starts with Electrode because I guess that's how they rhymed it. But Electrode's the very
I
first
don't remember that.
Pokemon in the rap.
Oh, I don't remember that. That's funny.
Yeah, but the next one, maybe a little bit positive or negative. Obviously, because I don't remember. I know you've been kind of in and out a little bit. The
Yeah.
past few years I picked up, but it's been relevant for a while. Probably going back to like 2010 to some degree. But the isekai genre in recently has definitely blown up. There's a lot of shows uh, that deal with this. The whole you leave your boring or life that you hate in the real world for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and now you're in a different world
You're
essentially.
kind of like transported
Yeah,
somewhere, right?
yeah. You're a
But
loser
like you,
here and you're amazing somewhere else type thing. Or I,
yeah.
some do like an opposite. There's a show that I'm thinking of that just came to my mind. I gotta remember where a dude was I gotta find this out, but it's been over years since I watched it. Where he was successful, like he had it made in his like mid to late 20s or like 29 or something like that, and then he got isekai'd, and now he's like poor, having to work his whole life, grind it back up. I gotta look at what that show was. It's one of the few isekai in recent memory that I actually didn't actually hate completely or felt like it was super bloated. But it's definitely become a really
Yeah.
bloated genre because a few shows do it. It's super popular, and then you get a bunch of shows. Like, do you think that it's become a super saturated genre? Do you even like isekai? I guess I should
I
preface
mean,
with it.
I like the concept, but only so much. I can't watch 20 different anime with the same concept
Yeah,
of leaving your world or your place and transporting somewhere else. Because sometimes it's where it's like you're like out of place in this world. Like that's the thing, you know what I mean? Like you're a normal human, then you get sent to this fantasy world where you're completely out of place. So you're a character that has no idea what's going on, doesn't understand the world or the time period or whatever. Um, I like some anime like that, but like it's not a genre like I would seek after. If that makes sense. I would not look for that genre.
Yeah, and I
It
think
just wouldn't.
I think there's some really popular shows. Obviously, whether you like it or not, SAO is a really popular show.
Yeah,
The
of course.
Tenchi
That's a big one I think of.
yeah, Tenchimuyu War on Geminar was one of the ones that kind of came around before it got super bloated. One of the big ones though is Konosuba. I don't. Have you gotten around to watching that before? As you chug your Miller.
I've never, I've never even heard of it.
Oh my god, that's definitely a show that I need you to sit down and watch. It's definitely the epitome of a comedy show. I
What's
can't
it
leave
called
you.
again?
Konosuba. I feel like you deserve to get roasted for not even knowing what that show is. But I know you haven't been big in recently in the
Oh
anime, so
no, I don't
if
even know
anybody
how
has any,
to
sorry, I don't.
type it.
Yeah, uh,
Oh, I see it
yeah.
with a K. Okay.
I'm sure anybody that watches this that knows about that show will let you know down. We'll definitely comment about it for sure.
It's a light novel series.
It's one of the few good ones. It's a really good comedy aspect to it. Ugh. Might have to do a whole
I'll have to. Yeah, I'll have to
once you
check it
watch it,
out.
we'll have to do a whole segment on that one for sure. But I mean, there's a lot of decent ones. I guess technically, Digimon Adventure, the OG Digimon, you could classify as an isekai because you go from
Yeah.
the real world. Technically, it's the digital world, but you're going somewhere else, more or less.
What about Code Lyoko? Because it's the most anime of all anime.
Yeah, the Fred show. I don't know if I'd classify that as an
Well, they
anime
kind of transport
or even an
out of
isekai.
the world. Well, no, I mean it's not even really an anime, right? It wouldn't be considered an anime.
No, I think it's like a
an
French cartoon. That's technically what it's
yeah,
classified as.
yeah. I wouldn't call it an anime, so I was just joking anyway.
No, no, you're fine. I was also trying to look up that other show that I mentioned, but I'd have to really dig into it. I don't want to waste forever digging into a show that I didn't even put on my anime list. Or if I did, it's buried. I got a lot of shows on here. Not as much as I should, but a lot there.
Yeah.
But as far as like what you've seen, like, would you say you have a favorite, or do you like I just don't watch the genre enough to even know what I would prefer?
I mean, like you mentioned Digimon, and I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, that
Yeah,
one because you said that. But that is a really good one where they're taken out of place into like literally the digital world, and it's
yeah,
completely different. I do like that. I thought the concept of them traveling through that world as like outcasts or outliers of this entire world was really cool.
yeah.
Um,
And
so I mean
I guess would you
that's one.
sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I guess you could
You're good.
consider then Inuyasha an isekai because the main girl protagonist,
Yep.
she falls through what's it, a well into a
Yeah. Well.
ancient mythical world and stuff like that. Though eventually she's able to go back and forth to some limited ability. I might be. It's been a while since I've seen it. Or I watched like the first like 10 episodes in the past like 6 months. Uh,
Of Inuyasha.
yeah, I watched it. I got it here. I think I was going through organizing stuff. I was like, I haven't watched this in a hot second. No, let me turn this on. I
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched Inuyasha, but I love it. Again, it's one of those anime where there's too many episodes though, and there's a I just too much of the same. Like I love it, but you get to a certain amount of episodes where it just feels samey to me, and a lot
yeah
of people say that where it just kind of feels repetitive, sort of over and over and over, and like the gimmick of commanding Inuyasha gets kind of old pretty quick. Um, like the sit, you know, that sort of thing. Um, but I love the series. I'm a big fan of the series, especially the manga. I actually like the manga quite a bit better.
because I finally, while you were talking, I was able to dig up what I was talking about. The anime, it's called the Dungeon of Black Company, where this dude's kind of like made life and then he gets reincarnated into another world and he's gonna like work his way back up. He's like the epitome of like I will work to being wealthy and having like everything that I want in life. Uh,
I have not heard of that one. What about the slime genre?
you immediately say that, and it's on the tip of my tongue with it. I feel so stupid. I can't remember.
You know what I'm talking about, though,
I
right?
do, and I blanking on the
Yeah,
name.
I'm blanking on the name too.
That time I got reincarnated as a slime. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, which got a game not that long ago again. Um, yeah, not super
I
long
haven't
ago.
watched it since
So.
it came out, but I do remember it being a really good show. Man, I need to go back and
I
rewatch it.
liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
I mean, I think there's a game on Steam for it as well. I don't know if it's the same game you were thinking of.
I think there's a few. I know there's a visual novel for it, but I know there's like dungeon crawler game
Yeah.
for it for sure. Um, so I think there's a few, possibly.
Yeah, but I mean that's definitely a good one. But I mean, there's definitely a lot that I would say I like about the isekai genre. I do think there's a lot of, I don't know, you call it bloatware, where it's the same thing, kind of miserable. You know, you hit or Truck-kun comes and hits you, and now you in a better or a different world, and life just seems kind of better. It just seems like an easy way to sell like a fantasy to people that'll watch without putting a whole lot of effort in. Which why I think the ones that actually do it well definitely stand out, and there's a lot that just kind of settles to the bottom that just gets forgotten about.
Yeah. What about, would you consider Yu Yu Hakusho kind of like that too, with the spirit world and,
Uh,
being transported there because he died?
Kinda, but he also never actually leaves the actual his world. He's always got access to it. So I guess technically the very end of the show, without getting
But
spoiler worthy.
isn't the isekai genre, doesn't it allow that to be able to transport back to be like a
Some,
teleportation sort
but
of
he
deal?
never gets technically reincarnated in another world. I think it's one. You could probably
Oh, he
find.
becomes yeah.
I think it's a stretch. I think it's just more of like an adventure shonen. I mean, I'm sure there's a early isekai things with the show, but it's not like he ever leaves his world. The whole getting hit by a car, passing away is definitely there from like the very first like what 60
Yeah.
seconds of the anime. Uh, I would say there's isekai parts, but in large part, I wouldn't classify it as an isekai show. But that's just me.
That's fair. I get that too. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I think the Digimon's a pretty good one, and I think it's overall a pretty good genre. But I can only take so much of being out of place in another world. Like, I don't need to watch 5 of those back to back, if that makes sense. So
No, yeah, there's a point where you could, it can get too bloated, and you're like, all right, you're doing the same thing over and over, like occasionally,
yeah,
but having a new like 2 shows like every season kind of gets old real quick.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
I guess this one is a little bit more in depth because I know we've talked about similar stuff when it comes to the games industry, but AI is just a generally big topic that's going around, obviously from Hollywood, and the writers are protesting with the whole SAG-AFTRA stuff that happened. I think about a year ago, from the time we're recording this, to what's going on now of just bringing AI to, hey, we don't need you anymore. AI can do your job better. We can have like a fraction of what we need. But with that coming in, AI is definitely seeping into the anime for subtitles, and then the manga and light novel translations as a whole. I guess just because I know you're not as in depth in some of the drama stuff that is going on with the AI in the anime industry, or the translation in
Well,
general.
I
Like,
mean,
how do you?
it's the same thing as AI and all the other industries, right?
Yeah,
The movies, the TV, the video games. Like, it's taking over some people's jobs. And you're talking about the translation. I mean, if the AI can do a better translation than the people that do translations now, it's essentially all those people mixed together to make like the ultimate. Um, it makes sense to me. I'm not necessarily saying I don't like that people are losing their jobs, but I've come to the conclusion that this is inevitable. It's growing every day, and there's nothing you can do about it.
no, yeah, and I would agree with a lot of that. I think it's definitely inevitable. It can not only make the process cheaper, but in theory, you can have less people. It can do it, and if it once you actually get it doing what you need to do, it can do it a lot faster, and it can do a lot more work a lot faster. So you don't need, you're not working at the speed that one person can work at. Like eventually, you can just quickly translate, whole light novels or several
Yeah.
chapters very quickly and or simultaneously. Uh, And then all
Right.
you need
Very
is like
quickly.
one person to go through and make sure it grammatically makes sense and there's no spelling error
Yeah.
or a word's not like messed up.
Yeah, like a fact checker going over it. It would save a lot of time for getting things translated. So for their fans, it would be a good thing.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to pull up straight up some of the people in the industry, but I know there has been issues in the past because obviously there are people that if there's a bad translation, the community is going to figure it out very quickly because there are people that do know both
Yeah.
languages and be like, hey, you've changed this because you've definitely seen it in the games
Yeah.
industry, but it's happened a lot in both the anime, the subtitles, light novels. But there's also been issues where a lot of people don't necessarily trust localizers because they've been caught. Maybe
Yeah.
at bulk it's not a problem, but they've been caught a handful of times changing stuff either for personal or ideological reasons, and it's just like
Yeah, I don't like that.
this is unnecessary. Either it's bad humor, just translate the joke as is, and if it doesn't hit as well, so be it, or you're just outright changing stuff which wholly changes the intention or the meaning behind what's actually being said. That you're changing the scene by changing things in the
Yeah,
subtitle.
which I don't think is okay.
But I do know, like, I mentioned it before on the Game Junction podcast, where there's a YouTube channel called Rev Says Desu, which I personally like him, but he like eats, sleeps, and breathes a lot of general drama on the internet, but especially he's whenever there's like AI or translator drama, he's definitely on top of it. Drama, I don't want to say complaints. Maybe that works ideally. But Katrina, like if you're in the scene, she's been one of the big targets. Or she's very vocal about what she does, but obviously she says a lot of stuff and been criticized for some of her translation works, a few things over the years. Obviously, the
Yeah.
bulk of probably what she's done has been fine, but she's definitely very obviously her and the industry, the media, are deathly afraid of AI because they feel like it's gonna come and take their jobs, and a lot of people criticize their work. Um, but obviously it's a lot of drama surrounded her because she's had a handful of times where people just straight up criticize what she's done because she has changed stuff or put stuff in there like this doesn't make sense at all, like what are you doing. So I think in that aspect the
Yeah.
industry wants to protect people, but maybe not all the fans because you'll find people that'll defend her in the industry as a whole, but there's a lot of people that are kind of, maybe I'm wrong, it's just what I've seen, kind of neutral on it. It's like, well, an AI can't do any worse than what you do on a lot of your work because at times it feels
Yeah.
like you're unnecessarily making changes, not for the adaptation, but you could translate this better and adapt it to English, and it could still, for the most part, make sense. Because a lot of people that are, especially in the manga and light novel industry, the people that are going to read this product already have an idea of what they're getting, or they understand some of the
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't necessarily translate, but they kind of get what you're coming from for the most part. You're not getting some Joe Schmo off the street who's never doesn't even know what anime even is for the most part. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you said. Pretty much, it's yep. I agree with you.
no, yeah, fair enough. Uh, Before we move on to the next little section, was there anything you want to say, talk about?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. You're asking about the AI, right?
Not necessarily AI, unless you had something else you want to say. Uh,
No, I guess I kind of touched on it.
yeah.
So,
Was there anything you want to talk about, or did you have anything physical you want to talk about, or?
well, do you want to like actual physical items?
I mean, yeah, we can do that.
So most of my anime stuff is actually put away in boxes. I actually just took a photo yesterday of a couple of my original Dragon Ball volumes that I found. So for the video, I could show this real quick. I just found these. These are my original ones from childhood. Just some random ones, like 1, 5, and 15. But I thought that was hilarious. I found a few other of my. Do you remember the Anna mangas?
Yeah,
Anna
yeah,
manga where it was like the anime, like a screenshot essentially of the
yeah.
anime turned into a manga. Yeah, I found one of those about World War II.
That's crazy.
um, I know, and I just had a couple of things here. Like I said, most of it is put away in the other room that I can't access right now. But I've got this guy right here, this little Naruto right here. But to add on to that, I've got something even cooler for you. Now, guys, This drink is a must drink. This is the G Fuel Naruto right there. And then I've also got this pre-order bonus for Naruto Storm Connections. So you got this little pin here. But on top of that, guys, I've also got this Naruto game. So like basically I am the biggest Naruto fan in the world. Like legitimately I have more Naruto stuff than anyone has, period. So
I'll quote you on that.
okay.
But maybe not necessarily for that. I actually had some stuff that was kind of similar to what we kind of talked about before. I bought this. I haven't actually watched it, but one of those random things you're at Walmart that you see, like, oh, I guess I'm gonna spend $30 on this. They actually had the season 1 of the Pokemon on Blu-ray.
What? I have not seen that.
No, there were two different things they had. It was this season 1, and then they had the all Indigo, which this is technically missing a few, but it was on regular DVD. So I was like, I guess I'll just buy this one.
I've never seen that Blu-ray. I've seen the Indigo set, but I don't really want to buy a DVD in 2024.
Yeah, because this one, I believe it's regular Blu-ray. I don't know if they upscale to just put on the Blu-ray disc, but
to see that on Blu-ray is still really cool. I would totally get that.
Yeah, it also
4K would be great, but you know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it had some nice little recipe card with it for some little Pikachu treat that I haven't done anything with, and then it actually had a short little Pokemon Adventures little manga that they kind of came along with it.
I used to have that in a comic book form. The first 3 issues.
Yeah, I remember that. I just thought it was like a neat thing that they included in this little thing, because normally they don't have to. It's just we'll just put.
How much was it?
Maybe $30 to $40. I don't remember.
I may have you grab one of those for me because I'll have to check my Walmart first, but I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah. Well, look, I gotta go shopping again, so
yeah,
I can
have
double
to take
check.
a look.
But I technically there are 2 other things. These were kind of related to the Isekai stuff. So the first light novel that I actually bought was the Sword Art Online, the Ancrad light novel, the first volume.
Nice.
From Reki Kawahara. As much as I have issues with both the light novel, but I actually read this whole thing and the anime, I think it was still neat. And
yeah,
I remember watching it when it first came out, so it definitely had an impact on me. You know, both positive or negative. Sorry if you heard that on the mic. I hit my stand real quick while I was talking.
I heard it.
Yeah, so I figured it kind of picked it up, unfortunately. But it was also what I mentioned before as far as the Isekai Tenchi Muyo War and Geminar. And as far as the anime podcast, it's new, but if you do know me or you watch the Game Junction I mentioned before, huge Tenchi Muyo fan of everything, even the OVAs people tend to hate. It's a unique thing. But it's technically classified as an isekai, and it's one of the early ones I thought did it right. Plus, it did a thing that anime doesn't really do a whole lot of, because technically it's an OVA. It's got like 40 to 50 minute long episodes, so it's 13 episodes. Yeah. But considering they're like on average about twice as long, I think the first episode's almost an hour. Sometimes I think some anime shows, even if it's only 12, 13 episodes long, they could benefit from a longer runtime. You could just generally tell a different story if you had more time than just the 20 minutes, even if it's, you know, the same amount of length, you know, span across, you know, maybe 20 some episodes, 26 episodes. I think it'd be neat if anime took that, because sometimes it's just you can better pace a story if you've got a whole, say, 40 minutes in one showing to tell a story. It can change maybe how you tell a story or you pace certain things. But yeah, it's one of those things I like. And considering it's technically Tenchi Muyo, it's the story for the most part. It's wholly its own thing. It's technically related if you know anything about the franchise. But I mean, I liked it when it first came out, and I think it's definitely one of the few that I actually had physical here that it's technically isekai. I like a lot of isekai. I just don't have a lot of physical that I've actually bought, at the very least not yet. So that's kind of what I had to show.
Well, I have a couple of more things. So another one that actually is directly anime, and this is actually a game I went to Southern Fried Gaming Expo, and along the way stopped at a bunch of game stores and you know, found some stuff and was filming and all that, mostly filming and stuff like that. I found this One Piece game that I had never even heard of before, called One Piece Burning Blood, and it's a fighting game. It's a really good fighting game that I've never heard anything about. it's really interesting. It's one of those weird. It's almost a weird fighter on the level of like JoJo. Like it's very strange. Which I should have grabbed that too because that's one I have as well. But yeah, it's just a weird one that I've never seen before. And then these aren't directly besides this one. This one is obviously My Hero Academia. This is My Hero 1's Justice. This is the first game. There is a second one. It's a pretty fun fighter. It's a 3D fighter, though, so it's not like on a 2D plane. Generally, that's not my favorite, but it was pretty good for what I mean, $20 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I've got a few here that aren't like directly animated related, but they kind of are anime-esque. That would be Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the Witch King.
That's a really good game.
It's basically you're playing anime basically, in an RPG. It's really really fun. I can't recommend this game enough. I've got this. I own this 3 times over on PS3, PS4, and Switch. I actually got this from a Walmart sale for $5. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and get it on Switch too.
Oh yeah. And for those that don't know, I feel like a lot of people kind of already know, but just want to say for those that don't know, yeah, Studio Ghibli, whatever you want to call it. Technically, at least on the first game, worked on a lot of the animation for it, so it's kind of why it has a. I really like both that and the sequel for that art style. I know they didn't work on the second game, unless I'm, completely getting my facts wrong.
I didn't know that.
It's a possibility.
But they look very similar. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely do love the art style that Ghibli puts in those games. But I think because I played far more of the second game, or I'm almost beat the second game than I have the first. But I have played a significant portion of both, and I think they were both really good games. For both, the whole JRPG story-driven games and how they look. I'd recommend both of them to anybody.
Yeah, I think they're must-plays. I like the second one even more than I like the first one, and I love the first one. Now, I wouldn't recommend going back and playing the PS3 version of it now, because there's a lot of quality of life improvements for the Switch and the PS4 version. I think I'd just go ahead and play those. But a couple more things I had. These aren't directly anime related, but it kind of is Japanese culture, anime art style. So the first one is a really interesting one. I don't know if you've heard of this. Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE, and this is the Encore edition. So this is Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem put together as Hololive. What are they called? Like the same idols. They're idols. Hololive idols. But like virtual idols. So like there's a whole story wrapped around it where Fire Emblem literally meets Shin Megami Tensei. It makes no sense, but it's so freaking fun. It's a JRPG, but it's also a rhythm game, but it's also an action adventure game, like all in one. Like it makes no sense. It shouldn't work. There's no reason Fire Emblem characters should be with SMT characters in modern day Tokyo, but it works. So, and I mean, like, again, a direct anime style, stylized game. I'm pretty sure, I cannot remember. There was a studio that actually worked on this game, anime studio. I don't see it on here. That did the art style. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Another one. It's just very anime-esque. There isn't much more to it other than the fact that SNK characters have had anime throughout the years, and that's SNK Heroines. Again, it's a fighting game. It's all female fighting game. It's really, really fun. It's called SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. Just super fun anime-esque style game. I would say that's the least like directly anime related one, but I thought that was neat. But I have one more thing to show, and I'm only showing this because who remembers renting, your anime because they were so expensive, especially the VHS. I had to show off the Blockbuster Nintendo Switch holder case. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but it's literally so. It's really cool because this is how I watched a lot of the anime. If it wasn't on TV, this is how I watched it. It literally comes in a replica rental case inside of here, just like you would have saw then for like the anime when it didn't have a cover or whatever. I just thought it was really cool. It's just a giant Switch case, but it's phenomenal. I love it.
Oh yeah,
I had to show. I needed a reason to show it off because yeah, I rented a lot of my anime, a lot of it.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if it was not on Toonami, like it came from a rental. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So
It's blast from the
yeah,
past.
yeah, for sure.
So you can get when you get into that the last blockbuster, then what's it up in like Seattle or something like that?
It's in Oregon.
Yeah, I know it's up there in the
Oregon.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I would love to go there. I wonder how long they can actually stay open because they're a tourist attraction. That's
Yeah.
why they stay open. So they sell like merch and things like that. I wonder how long that can stick around because I feel like even that at some point anybody that wants to see a blockbuster is going to have already seen that blockbuster,
Yeah.
and they only stay alive. They don't stay alive by their rentals. I can tell you that.
No, as long as they make money, they can. But as soon as it goes away, and I assume they're banking on the tourist attraction to pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah, and I worked at Blockbuster until it closed down, so it does have a special place in my heart. It was my like that type of job where it was like a lower end job, you were young. It was my favorite job that I've ever had. Like I got to take so we would get the movie rentals early, obviously. Sometimes up to like a week early they'd be sent out to us and we could take them home and watch them. We just had to have it back and it had to be back before they went out on the shelf for rental day. So like there was a lot of stuff I watched before it like officially came out, on home DVD to rent and buy.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of memories of that, and I remember taking home. I still have them. A bunch of. Do you remember the placard? They're worth a lot of money, and like people specifically collect these, but they were like placard cards that would go either in front or behind the DVD or VHS, and it would show the art and then like have the name on the top so you could like find what you're looking for.
Yeah, I remember at least for like the genres and stuff. Like remember like that, or maybe different
Yeah.
sections how they would break it up a little bit.
Yeah, so there would be specific movies that would have those too that would break up. So like it would have the just the cover art on there. There were a bunch of anime ones for VHS and DVD at the time, and Blu-ray because Blu-ray had been recently out at that time, so it was getting pretty popular. I remember when I started, we weren't even getting Blu-ray in yet. So I remember towards the end, like Blu-ray is like really really popular at that point. But yeah, those placards were for the VHS and DVDs. They never did them for the Blu-rays for some reason. But they're like thick, hard plastic. Just show the cover art. Really cool. Separate the movies. I got to take a bunch of those home, and I remember getting to take a couple of movie posters home, like display posters. I got to take home a which I gotta think of which one Need for Speed it was. I no longer have it. I haven't had it for a long
It
time.
had to
I
have
want to
been
say it
like
was Tokyo Drift.
yeah,
I think it
or
might.
maybe
No, no,
I feel like it'd been
no.
later, like what 5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah, it was 4, 5, or 6. One of them. Anyway, it's a giant standee with a car popping out, like jumping a ramp.
Yeah,
Silly stuff like that. I had really good times there. It was just, like a low end job. It would have been like, kind of a beginner job for some people. And, but it was fun. Like we get to talk about movies with customers all day and games and like come in and give suggestions. And like, I watched everything under the sun so I could talk about it. And I'd watch all the new releases unless it was like something really stupid, like a rom-com I didn't care about.
yeah,
But yeah, little off topic, but there was a lot of anime there. We had a big anime section. Anime was very popular to be rented out. And I also used to rent anime at the library too. Local library had a large, and it still does, because I took my daughter there a few times this summer to get some books. They have a large anime and manga section. So I think that's pretty cool. So those places are how I watched all like the more quote unquote obscure anime or like things like Helsing or things that weren't on Toonami, like Tokyo, is it called Tokyo Mew Mew? I think it is.
yeah. There's a show. I think it's
Think
close.
Tokyo Mew Mew, and it's how I first watched Card Captors. Fruits Basket, things like that, like stuff that wouldn't have been on Tanami. Like shows like that would have never been on Tanami. It was all
Yeah.
shonen and stuff like that. Um, so yeah,
No, yeah, definitely.
I think it
Sorry.
was called Tokyo Mew Mew, but I
No,
can't remember.
it
That
was
was a
I double checked. I just want to make
oh
sure because I
okay.
was like that sounds so familiar, but there's a bunch of shows I know that start with Tokyo. I don't know Tokyo Ghoul. I was like, I don't know if that's the right thing or not though. But sorry, sir, you can't rent this anime. You owe $112 on late fees. Though probably by the time you work, they didn't have late fees anymore. I definitely remember that being a thing where it's like,
Right.
we got to use your mom's
Yeah.
card because I have like a super load or a bunch of like late fees. We can't use my card anymore.
Yeah, they introduced this program. I forget what it was called, but it was like it was something pass program where essentially you could keep the movie as long as you wanted, up to 3 movies, but before you couldn't go beyond 3 movies, so you had to bring it back
Yeah,
regardless, and you couldn't do new releases. It could be anything but new releases. Keep it as long as you want, but has to come back before you can get another one to equal 3 being out. So
sure.
remember
Some
that.
people were like, "Oh, well, I guess I just got 3 free movies because yo went out of
There
business."
were people that did that because they would offer, they were idiots, and they would offer like a free month of that subscription to do that. So like there were people that did that. It wasn't a very smart move. Um
No,
yeah,
yeah, that's why they're not around anymore. But
unfortunately.
yeah, I know. Before we go away, there's like one last thing I want to bring up because obviously we're about to still in the midst of technically summer, and summer anime is still airing, but the fall is right around the corner. That means the
Yes.
fall season's around the corner, and there's a few shows that I definitely want to watch, especially just to watch, but also talk about. And this one is more like the CG, but obviously one of the big ones is Gundam Requiem for a Vengeance, which comes out this October, which is a big one that comes out on Netflix that I know we've been waiting for. It feels like
Yeah.
about a whole year at this point. It looks really cool. 'Cause I know all we know is it takes place during the 1 year war, and it's in I believe the European theater or the European front of that war. But I'm definitely really excited to watch and see how they're gonna do that. Where it's hey, you're at least from what I remember from the trailers of it's a hey, you're watching this from the Xeon point of view, especially as the Gundam actually becomes a thing. They start mass producing the Alliance starts mass producing mobile suits and stuff like that. Because I remember in like the first trailer, they really make the Gundam look kind of demonic. I remember seeing somebody comment like they really make it look demonic and it looks
Yeah.
really cool. So I'm interested to see exactly how they're going to tell that story.
Well, there is a bunch of fall anime that
Oh
I'm
yeah,
looking forward to, a whole bunch, because Bleach is returning for one, which I'm really excited about. That's making its return. And then we're also getting which one? So I don't know if this would be at the top of the list of me caring. Dragon Ball Daima, gotta mention that. That is coming out this fall too.
oh
I
yeah.
forgot about that. But also the second part to that Sword Art Online spinoff
Oh, the
that came out, because I did
Gun
watch
Gale
that. The
Online. It was a
Yeah,
really good
yeah,
spinoff, but it's been several
yeah.
years since it aired.
Well, we're getting part 2, and I liked it a lot. And then also there was something else I remember. I'm gonna have to look here.
Got to double check.
Dragon Ball Daima and Bleach are the big ones for sure. Obviously, like Bleach returning is huge. It's been a long
Yeah.
time.
No, it's
Um,
you got Ranma one half. The what's it? The
Ranma,
remake.
yes, the remake. Yes, Ranma half the remake,
And
and then there's
I
and
actually
Rurouni Kenshin the season 2.
yeah. That's another show that's getting a second season is MF Ghost. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I missed the first season of that. I
I
gotta go
haven't
back and
heard of
rewatch
it.
it.
Yeah.
It's the successor to Initial D, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yes, I
Absolutely
am
love
too.
Initial D. I wish I got
Yep,
into
I'm a fan too.
a little bit younger. I finally they started republishing the manga, and I got the
I read the manga first.
yeah
I
I
got it
did,
from the library,
but
and I didn't see the anime until much later.
I don't know if
But
I don't know if there's Eurobeat in this, but that's like the core of Initial D. It's cars and like Eurobeat, and you're like, oh, drifting Eurobeat, like it's a match made in heaven.
that's why I like Tokyo Drift. That's why, seriously, Need for Speed Tokyo Drift is my favorite.
Yeah, they were coming. I think they're
Um,
coming at about the same time.
yeah, yeah, but those ones are at the top of my list, and that's already enough as it is. I mean, that's enough to fill a plate there. But I was trying to see if there's anything else that would
Yeah. Obviously,
interest me that I may have forgot about or
yeah.
something.
Obviously, there's a lot more that's coming out that I probably at least need to browse through, look at some trailers, and see like, all right, what's a little bit more interesting. But those were some of the, at least to me, some of the big ones. Are like, okay, I definitely need to watch a few of these. And then we're doing an anime podcast now, so definitely want to talk about some of
Well,
these.
I will tell you there is one more that I see that I would be super interested in watching because I didn't know this ever continued in any form or fashion, period. But Duel Masters Lost. Duel Masters has a new series coming out. That's crazy. I haven't seen Duel Masters since Cartoon Network. It was
Yeah, it's been a
basically a
while.
rip off of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I liked it a lot. I really, really liked it. It's the very last one listed on this website I'm looking at, but it comes out October 4th, so I will definitely be checking that out.
Oh
That's
yeah,
really, really cool. I'm glad they're reviving that. So
definitely. And as far
I
as
think
the
that's what I'm looking forward to, though.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this probably already know, but looking at the fall 2024 list, it's off of myanimelist.net is where I
Yeah,
get a lot of this stuff from. But I also did the one last thing I did want to mention was the
sure.
Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I believe it's getting a fifth season if I'm reading this correct. Yeah, the fifth season's coming out. It just reminded me I actually need to go back and watch that because I watched the first season, actually really liked it, never actually continued to watch past that.
Well,
So I need to go.
a
I
lot
want
of
to go
people
back and
like it.
I need to go back and finish watching that. There's a lot of shows I need to go back and finish watching, but that way I can actually be caught
Yeah.
up and watch it and be like, all right, these are my actual thoughts now that I'm like caught up with the story. Um,
Well, there's one about idols. I don't know if you saw that called the Idol Master Shiny Collar second season. I
yeah,
don't
I
know if
mean, I'm
that
not
would be.
the biggest Idol fan. I mean, contrary to popular belief, I'm a huge Hololive fan as far as the VTuber goes. I'll try my best to convert him. I think he's a lost cause on the VTubers, but
I'm kind of lost on it, but that's already enough that I'm looking forward to for fall since it's been so long being caught up on anime. Rurouni Kenshin season 2 though to me is at the top of the list. I still need to watch the season 1 remake. I'm not like I wasn't in a like super rush. I think it's super cool that they're doing it. I love the original so much that like I'm a little nervous that I'm not going to like the remake, but it could be
yeah.
great. I mean, for all I know, it could be great. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. But that's definitely a lot there. And there's one called Mecha Ood Mechanical Arms. It's a some sort of mech anime that's also coming out. So that's interesting.
I mean, yeah, there's a. Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. Mecha Ood. Uh,
Yeah.
it's definitely worth checking out. There's a lot. I mean, obviously the fall season for the most part starts in October, so there's definitely a lot to
Yeah.
watch and kind of have about a month and a half to prepare. But that means a month and a half to try to catch up on what's still airing in the summer. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot that we want to watch now and stuff that we're definitely planning to watch. And obviously, it's great content here for the
Yeah.
this anime podcast to talk about. But hey, if you have any comments or discussions or agreements, disagreements with what we talked about, obviously let us know, down in the comments. Obviously, if you like it, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel to get a lot more. And if obviously there's something specifically you want us to talk about or to watch, definitely let us know down below, and we'll try to watch it and give you our thoughts about it. Because definitely want to interact with the community the best we can. As far as the socials, most are going to be, at least for the immediate future when this is actually coming out, are going to be related to Game Junction. We do have some, I think you should call it Anime Junction socials that were
Yeah.
made a long time ago and have to go figure out logins and get stuff put together for that. But
Yeah.
there will definitely be socials eventually for this specifically, but for the Game Junction network and just Game Junction in general that we're directly tied to, doing a podcast for that every Friday if you want to come watch, or you can watch it after the fact. And then
Yep.
obviously we're doing this podcast. I think immediately right now it's obviously pre-recorded, but the tentative plan right now is to have an episode every Sunday. That may change. Obviously, this second episode that we're recording, so we're still trying to get stuff kind of nailed down for it. But that's going to be the immediate future. But yeah, let us know what you think, and then hopefully we'll see y'all next time.
Yep. Peace.
Peace out, everybody.